Welcome to Dark Habits. This podcast contains extreme language and stories about violence and subjects that some listeners may find upsetting. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dark Habits, the podcast. If this is your first time listening, well, thanks for joining. And if you've listened before, then I'm thrilled that you're back. Happy Friday the 13th, and happy episode 6. We made it to episode 6, and today I have a case that is very Friday the 13th appropriate, because we will be discussing bloodthirsty teenage wannabe serial killers. But before we start, I want to give a thank you to everyone who has found me on social media. I know I only have a couple friends, but I'm hoping that one day grows. And I want to give a special thank you to anyone who has left me feedback or a review on Apple Podcasts or the other platforms. Those reviews really help my show grow, and the feedback is crucial to making sure that I'm adjusting my podcast to give you all the best listening experience. I do this podcast all on my own, from research to writing to production, and it's a real learning experience, to say the least. I started this show because I have always had a passion for true crime and especially justice, and I volunteered with some cases myself in the past. But I also fell in love with true crime podcasts, and I was amazed at some of the talent that is displayed in the podcast arena with this genre. It's truly incredible. But sometimes I would Google the case after the episode and I would realize that a lot of the evidence wasn't discussed. So that's why I want to include as much evidence and facts as possible in each episode. And I hope when listening to my podcast, you learn something each week. But I think that's enough about me. So let's get started. A case so tragic and emotion-provoking that my first knowledge of it was a video clip of a journalist in tears recounting the event. I decided to dig into it a bit more, and it turns out it was not just an oversensitive reporter. The police who were dispatched to the 911 call that summer night in June 2015 were also in tears when asked to reflect on the situation. With further research, I discovered a case involving killers so cold and depraved that I'm still somewhat in disbelief over. And strangely, this case has little coverage. Actually, out of the many true crime channels I watch, no one covered it. This is a story of isolation, the internet, and two psychopathic teenage brothers in the suburbs of Oklahoma. The word psychopath is used so often that it tends to lose meaning of what a psychopath actually is. Not all murderers are psychopaths, and believe it or not all psychopaths are murderers. There has been widespread fascination in an attempt to understand this condition since the beginning of psychology and science. The awareness of the altered brain function of a psychopath is closely related to the desire to understand serial killers. The term serial killer is somewhat of a modern word, but not a modern concept. Back in the 1970s, when serious research on these individuals was just beginning, the phrase serial killer had never been used. They were known as mass murderers. But come 1981, the term was used for the first time by the New York Times when discussing the crimes of Wayne Williams. Most serial killers are psychopaths because of the psychological gratification they feel when killing. A serial killer, in sense, was defined not by the number of killings, but by their pattern, premeditation, and their seeming lack of motive, which was widespread when researching these individuals. By example, this is the desire to hunt and kill humans as if they were a sport, like hunting deer in the fall. Over time, it became clear, by the advancements in psychological research, that something was off biologically. Neuroscientists scanned psychopaths' brains, and they found solid proof of something different since the womb. The scans showed reduced activity in an area towards the center of the brain called the orbital cortex. This part of the brain is thought to play a role in regulating our emotions and impulses, as well as morality and aggression. Yet psychopathy is not a medical diagnosis, perhaps because the word itself would easily carry a stigma against anyone who is diagnosed. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, also known as the DSM, refers to the condition as antisocial personality disorder. I would imagine that antisocial personality disorder is widely undiagnosed, again because of the stigma and assumptions of who they are. Some senseless killers have this disorder, but also the disorder is linked to risky and criminal behavior. But of course, some people may have this center cortex abnormality and not even know about it. Others seek therapy and have successful lives. Overall, education and knowledge of antisocial personality disorder is widely absent. Therefore, the stereotypes are hard to break. I think the best way to give a fair representation of this condition is to share a few clips from people who have it.
I would say it's pretty average, to be honest. If you were on the outside looking in, you would say that it was pretty boring. Because for the most part, what I tend to do now is I tend to just really stick to myself. Because I have to be very careful about how I'm interacting with people and under what context I'm interacting with people. So I tend to limit anything that would be negative for me.
Why do you have to limit yourself?
Because if I encounter a certain kind of person, and if I'm talking to you and I sense a level of weakness, I get kind of the urge to prey upon that in a way. So in order for me to kind of mitigate that, I definitely limit my social interactions, and I have to make sure it happens underneath the right context. Otherwise, I just, I try to stay away from it.
When you say prey on somebody, what do you mean?
So the way it would work for me is I'll speak to someone. I won't really tell them much about me. They'll tell me about them. And then once they tell me about them, I'll kind of form a personality. I'll exaggerate certain features about my own personality to match what it is that they're looking to see. And then once I get my goal, whatever that goal is, then I'm done with the situation, and then I move on. And I've had feelings that I was strange as long as I can remember.
What was it like to feel strange at a young age?
It was a bit interesting, I would say, because you're kind of able to exist on the fringe, and it's kind of like you're on the outside looking in. Mm-hmm. Everybody's on the other side of that window pane.
But without a doubt, there are additional factors that contribute to the person ending up as a killer or serial killer. This would be the nurture side of the argument. It is believed you can condition a psychopath to essentially change their behavior by therapy. In adult individuals who had the previously mentioned cognitive and neural dysfunction and then ended up killing, researchers found patterns in how they were raised. The life histories of psychopaths are often characterized by a chaotic family life, lack of parental attention, parental substance abuse, poor relationships, divorce, and adverse neighborhoods. These are just a few of the similarities they found. These persons may feel like prisoners of their own mind and believe that they had, in comparison with normal people, fewer opportunities or advantages in life. With all of this mentioned, I want to make it clear that there are many people with antisocial personality disorder who live very successful lives. But off what I just explained, there's no doubt as to why April and David Bever were unsuccessful at nurturing the psychopath out of both their sons, Michael and Robert. I would argue that their parenting style actually strengthened and guided the boys towards this irreversible outcome. I also want to say that I am in no way blaming April and David for the actions of their sons. But many would argue their parenting style would be considered abusive, and at the very least have devastating consequences on severe mental illness.
Air 911. Broken Air 911. Hello?
Hello.
Hi, where are you at?
Broken Arrow, Oklahoma 7411.
What address?
709 Magnolia Court.
Okay. Are you the only one there?
No, my brother's attacking my family.
Your dad is attacking your family?
No, my brother. He has an idea stealing me. Oh, millions of people out.
Okay, who's attacking your family?
What?
Who's attacking your family?
Yes.
Who is it? Do they?
I'll call them.
Are you there?
Hello?
Hi, what's going on there? What's going on there? Hello? Hello? Hello?
On July the 22nd, 2015, a 911 call came in at exactly 11:34 p.m. Following the call, police were dispatched to 709 Magnolia Court in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. Broken Arrow is a city located in the northeastern part of Oklahoma, mainly in Tulsa County, with a portion in western Wagoner County. It is the largest suburb of Tulsa. With a higher than average median income, great schools, and a safe community, Broken Arrow is an exceptional place to live. With that being said, not a lot of major crime takes place in the community, with a homicide rate next to zero. So when a call came in that summer evening, there was really no cause for alarm. The dispatcher was unsure what was taking place on the other end of the line, and labeled it as a possible domestic violence dispute. Unable to reach the caller when the 911 agent called back, it was relayed as a blank phone call. Nonetheless, out of caution, Brett Burton, a police investigator who was just about to finish his shift, headed south towards the neighborhood known as Indian Hills. A fellow officer met Brett at the location within 5 minutes of the call coming in. But as they pulled up to the nice big house that sat on a quiet suburban street, they heard a voice coming from the home, a faint whimper that appeared to sound like the words, "Help me." As they walked up the front yard's path towards the door, the voice became louder, and it became apparent that someone was in danger. It was then when they realized they were addressing something far more morbid than a simple family argument, as they see blood spatter and drag marks all over the front steps and walkway. The front door was locked, and without backup on scene, they wondered if they should wait out of caution. But with the sounds seeming desperate and urgent, they kick in the door, and behind the door laid a girl right at their feet, butchered. Clinging to her life, slurring from the gargle of blood in her mouth to fight out words, she managed to answer some questions. "Who did this to you?" "My brother." "What is your brother's name?" "Robert." "His name is Robert?" "Michael." "His name is Robert Michael?" "No, another brother, Michael." "Oh, your brothers Robert and Michael." "Yes." The two officers took the girl outside, reassuring her that she would be okay, even though they wondered how in the world she was possibly still alive. 5 minutes later, backup arrives. With extreme caution that this was an active situation, they enter the house. One by one, carefully, methodically. There was no telling at this point who was the killer nor who was the victim. The floors and walls were covered in blood, more blood than any of them had ever seen at a crime scene. As they turn the first corner into the next room, they find a body at their feet in a pool of blood. In the same room laid a child, stabbed to an unrecognizable level. They were both clearly deceased. Turning the corner, they see what officers believe to be the children's father, curled up and stabbed to death. Another officer is upstairs, where he finds the hallway bathroom door closed and locked. He believes they have their suspect, but as they break open the door, they find another 2 young children, brutalized and dead. At this point, they had 5 dead bodies, plus 1 young girl clinging to her life. Every room and corner they had entered was worse than the last, a complete massacre. But upstairs, one officer collapses on the floor with relief when he finds a baby alive in her crib, untouched. The house was now cleared without catching who was responsible for this massacre. They retrace their steps back down to the first floor, where they realize the back door is ajar. The officer's canine picks up a scent, and they follow the lead through a backyard trail approaching woodland. There is bulletproof armor, blood-soaked, scattered throughout the grass. But within 5 minutes, the canines locate 2 bodies. They are teenagers. As they announce commands over the loudspeaker, one teenage boy comes out with his hands up. The second still not complying, so they release the dogs. The only time one of the young men would have an opportunity to feel pain, but nothing like the pain his family felt just moments before. They walk out of the woods unharmed, not upset nor distraught, like it was a game of manhunt or hide-and-go-seek. One of the boys says to the other,
"It's not like you see it on TV. I thought just one cut and they die."
As they document the 2 killers covered in blood and dirt, they look at each other. The older of the 2 states,
"Well, it's been a pleasure, and I'm proud of what I've done,"
as they smile for the camera, a documented photo that would haunt anyone who sees it for years to come. The 2 boys were now known to be Michael and Robert Bever, the older 2 of the 7 Bever children. Because of the courage of their 13-year-old sister, the police were able to know their identities and effectively capture them before they could go off and play out what they had planned all along. And not to forget the 911 call from their brother Daniel, who had died just shortly after that call. On the way to the police station, one of the officers had a very interesting conversation with Michael, the younger of the 2.
"I hope they're okay.
You hope who is okay?
The people in the house.
Whose house?
Mine.
Who are they to you?
My family."
Michael is probably trying to come up with his defense, but they are still such chilling words from someone who just murdered their entire family. The Bever family were a large Christian family who, although lived in the friendly upper-class community of Indian Hills, neighbors knew little about. The father, David, was a computer analyst working at a nearby office. Their mother, April, also worked in the computer field from the family's home. It was mandatory that April worked from home because she had homeschooled her 7 children since they became school-aged. Well, I should say the children may have been homeschooled, because it's unclear as they weren't active members of the homeschooling community. Nonetheless, it was her role to spend all of her time in the home with her children, rarely letting them out of her sight. Both parents agreed from the onset to protect their children from any outside influences, mainly due to their strong Christian faith and religious convictions. They lived strictly by the text of the Bible and feared the sins of modern society. The parents often talked about the rapture and the biblical apocalypse as a retribution thing for everything they hated about the world. Everything was to be done together, and that meant not communicating with the neighbor children or their parents. When neighborhood kids tried to approach the children, they would retreat into the home, like they were either not allowed to play with others or simply uninterested. The kids only had each other to play with inside of the home. This was not normal for the outgoing, close-knit Oklahoma suburb, but regardless, although different, the family was quiet and never bothered anyone. Robert was the oldest child, who was 18, and the kids varied in age, all the way down to the youngest, the almost 2-year-old baby girl. She turned 2 the week after her family was murdered. Her parents even had a cake for her to celebrate in the fridge. Some accounts from the surviving Bever children after the massacre stated April and David to be controlling to the point of abuse, psychologically, and although religious, David had a temper and would abuse their mom and sometimes hit them. Robert said he felt his parents hated children and only continued to have kids for the tax breaks. Their father had also installed a security system that included cameras pointed both outside and inside the home. But let me be clear, this is not a story of revenge. Despite their strict isolation from the real world, there was apparently very limited oversight and rules inside the home. The children were often inside unattended and would attempt to get their perception of the outside world through their only source, the internet. There were many computers in the Bever home. Michael and Robert had 2 laptops each. Michael, the second oldest, was 16, and with similar interests, he created a YouTube channel where you can see the 2 boys began to create videos to interact with outsiders.
Alright, the new vlog. I got my video uploading for my first Happy Wheels playthrough. Sadly, something happened, and at the last the game crashed, and so it might got a little slow. I'll have to cut out certain parts of it. There was just silence, hoping it would come back. It didn't, though. So I'm going to upload a part 2 sometime soon, hopefully with better video quality. Second of all, new hairstyle, check it. It's called a faux hawk, where I don't have to shave the rest of my head, but I still get mohawk. I hope it still looks like a faux hawk. I did it before. I still have my long hair. I just shaped it to look like a faux hawk. In the next couple days, I'm going to try to get an actual faux hawk. I did this before I started filming my playthrough of Happy Wheels. Thirdly, YouTube, can you not? I uploaded my first video of the Dark Forces playthrough for Cult Empire Classic, and there was like no audio, which completely ruined it. I had commentary, it was hilarious. It was 20 minutes of my life. So then I made another playthrough with no audio, just because, you know, I had heard that a couple of other people had experienced the same thing. So then I uploaded it, and there's no option to remove audio. Anyway, for some reason, I thought the last time that I looked, there was an option to completely remove audio from a video. And guess what? Yeah, it actually had audio this time when I uploaded my second Let's Play. This is all you heard was my breathing. It was just this... That's a rant. Alright. Vlog, first number 3. Cult Empire. Official.
This video is of Robert. There's nothing in particularly strange about this video. It just seems like a hyperactive teenager that's been trapped in a house. There appears to be a blue sheet draped in the background, like he possibly doesn't want people to see his room.
Salute. Hey everyone, it's me, Cult Empire. In case you didn't know, you found me by accident. Or you're expecting someone else. Yeah, why would you do that? Anyway, this is the second first ever update, which I think is a major improvement. I tried a news report theme last time, that's not very vloggy, is it? So I'm being a little more chillinated, writing stuff, scripting. I'm going to make my first skit soon. Can't show you a sneak preview or it would ruin it. It'll be like a minute long. It's going to be some good stuff. I think it's going to be hilarious. It's going to have a few props in it, which is the only delay. So, props for props. A non-profit organization. I don't know. I just came up with that. That would be weird if there actually was one. I came up with a couple of songs. They aren't parodies, though. They're some intense gangster rap type stuff I came up with when I was listening to someone's mixtape. About that. Yeah. I had a parody song, but it's probably offensive, so I'm never going to upload it. Now I'm having to write a whole new parody song. You can't explain that. Man. Write a song. Just writing a song. I got that creativity juices flowing. Alright, I also found out that Minecraft is compatible with Windows 8. I heard. I don't know how reliable that is, but it turns out it's just my laptop is a compact I've had for about 4 years. And its graphics drivers are hopelessly outdated, so, speaking of hopelessly outdated, Minecraft 0.6.0 turned out to be a bomb in a bad way. Everyone knows that by now, but, my brother lost his Ultimate Survival World because of, the 0.6.0 Pocket Edition, world saving glitch. It was awesome. The whole world had been mined out. It was a full-blown city with streets and neighborhoods and a big city center with skyscrapers and hot dog vendors and mimes and pollution. Or maybe I was just cleaning out my closet. The pollution fumes went to my head. I'm crying me in the tears for that. But knowing him, my brother, he'll probably jump right back on that and rebuild, so props for that. Props for that. And prosper. Yeah. Think I'm on something there. New rap. Okay. Anyway, confusing outro.
The second video is very similar. He speaks very fast and bangs his head around like he may be hyperactive. He goes off on tangents, speaking about making movies and parodies. The scripts he wrote would later be found. But he does not display violence. There's also a third video in which him and Michael play out a skit. There's no way by watching these videos you would be able to predict what would happen that upcoming year. The two boys shared everything and often stayed up all night together discussing their goals. In fact, Robert was Michael's only friend in the world, so when Robert became obsessed with killing and violent fantasies, Michael didn't know how to process it. It was the research on the internet that fed Robert's obsession with mass murderers like Eric Harris and the Columbine shooters. The two began to gravitate towards killing and normalized it. Besides, the Bever home was the perfect melting pot for dark thoughts by the degree of isolation and fear of others these two grew up with. Their passions grew stronger and goals were created. They wanted their own Wikipedia page one day, just like the Aurora school shooter. They dreamt of the fame they could achieve by carrying out a historic mass murder. This would include killing off people who weren't contributing to society and cleansing this overpopulated world. They loved violent movies such as Rampage, and in their free time, they would write out scripts and act these movies out. Robert eventually got a job at a religious call center where he prayed with callers over the phone. But this job was only a means for the finances they needed for their mission. I mean, after all, they wanted to be the biggest and the best in their class. So with the money from Robert's job, they purchased body shields, bulletproof vests, and knives. They started to keep a journal of their plan, writing that they aspired to kill over 500 people. But although no outsiders, such as teachers or professionals, could see these clear warning signs, there is evidence that suggests that the boys' passion was no secret in the Bever home. Actually, Robert Bever had been planning the family massacre for 5 years since he was 13. The older sister heard of her brother's plans and told her parents, but her parents' reaction was that boys would be boys. And since they wanted to be serial killers, they had to get rid of those in the way of their goal. They would kill their family and then go on a rampage, killing everyone without rhyme or reason. With ammo and guns being delivered that evening, it was time to act quick. They had to get rid of their family before they found out about their plan. But as we already know, their grand plan failed. They would not go on to kill the hundreds of people as they wished. And thankfully, they were not successful at killing off their entire family. 2 of their sisters, the 2-year-old and the 13-year-old, would survive. The 13-year-old would go on to be the main voice of justice for her family. They thought that murder was something like they had seen in the movies, effortless and cinematic. After the boys are arrested, they are interrogated separately. This is Michael, aged 16.
Man, I'm just kind of got thrown into this, so I was hoping maybe you could kind of just go back at the beginning when all this started and kind of tell me what happened, because I need kind of the details so we know and understand what you went through and stuff.
Okay, so the very start.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, about 2 months ago.
Okay.
Is when we first really started talking.
So when you say we, who are you talking about?
Me and my brother, who is also.
Your brother?
Yeah, who has to do with me.
And what's his name?
Robert Bever.
Robert? Okay. And how old is he?
18.
Okay. Alright, go ahead. Sorry.
A couple months ago, I think back to the start of this year, we started talking about voodoo and Rampage and stuff like that.
Okay.
I didn't take it seriously at first, but then he started buying a body armor and stuff.
Where did he buy body armor from?
eBay and Amazon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, legal.
Does he have a job?
He did. At Mike Tech, he quit the start of the year. And basically, it just kept escalating. He kept getting burned, and he asked if I wanted any, and I said yes, so he got me my own set.
Okay.
And then about a month, about like June 30th, is when he came to me and said he found out that he can legally buy guns without permit in Oklahoma, that he could.
Okay.
And that's when he started planning. And
did you? Now you said he bought body armor, but you kind of said like a bunch of stuff. Did he buy? What else did he buy besides body armor?
Besides body armor, knives, and he was in the middle of buying guns and ammunition.
I see. Okay. Where did he buy the knives from?
eBay too.
Okay. Can you tell me?
Michael begins to explain the planning process. The two boys start to stack up ammo, knives, and bulletproof attire. When Robert finds out he can buy guns in Oklahoma at his age, it was the green light to live out their dreams. He will continue to go on about where he got the guns from online and how they were going to arrive the day after he murdered his family.
So then how? So he was buying weapons because you guys had talked about murdering.
Yeah, and he started planning it.
Okay.
And I went along with it because I see the way I thought I would want to do it. I very quickly learned tonight that I didn't.
Okay, that you didn't want to do it?
I don't want to do it. I didn't, just because I didn't kill anyone.
Okay.
I stabbed someone.
Who did you stab?
My younger brother, Christopher.
Christopher? How old is Christopher?
9, I think.
What did you stab him with?
My knife.
What's your knife look like?
It's green, kind of like camouflage, honestly.
On where your hand goes or where the blade is? It's camouflage?
Yeah, it's all camouflage.
Oh, the whole thing?
Yeah.
How big is it? Show me how big it is.
I think it's about this big.
Okay. So what was Christopher doing when you stabbed him?
He was laying on the bathroom floor. Robert was also stabbing, and Robert asked me to go over and help him. So I stabbed Christopher, and then...
Where did you stab him?
Side of the neck.
Really? Okay. You okay?
Yeah.
You okay? Let me know if you need a break or anything, okay?
I'm good.
So was Christopher still alive when you stabbed him?
Yes.
What was he saying and doing?
He was just screaming.
Screaming. Did you say he was in the bathroom?
Yeah, I was next to the toilet, with that bathroom.
Who else was in the bathroom?
I think Victoria might have been in there. About
Victoria?
Yeah, my 4-year-old sister.
4-year-old, okay.
Michael tries to pin the planning process on Robert, yet he just admitted to killing his little brother, Christopher, and ambushing both him and his 4-year-old little sister in the bathroom.
Why did he want to do it?
To kill people?
Yeah.
Well, mainly 2 reasons, I think. It's, because he just, says he hates everyone. He thinks society is pointless, and so he wanted to kill people.
Now,
and also he wanted to, beat the kill, amount of other famous people like Columbine and James Egan Holmes.
Okay. Did you kind of feel that way too? Like when you guys were talking earlier,
Yeah.
Do you have a problem with society too, do you think?
No, I just...
Or you were just more like the number of people getting killed was kind of interesting and exciting?
Yeah.
Okay. So, because you mentioned a couple names are those serial killers or something?
What, like Columbine?
Yeah.
Columbine and James Egan Holmes. James Egan Holmes is a guy that shot at the theater.
In Colorado?
Yeah, he killed 12 and...
Wow. How many were killed in Columbine?
Columbine? I don't know, 15.
Okay.
I think.
So did you guys have a goal? Did you have a number?
He just wanted, I think he wanted to kill 50.
Okay.
I have a goal.
So so as the planning goes, tell me what plans you started making and coming up with.
Well, originally, I think kind of stayed steady throughout the month is we wanted to kill everyone at the house first.
Okay.
And then wait for all the packages to show up over the weekend.
They wanted the kill because they thought society was stupid. A society that they were not allowed to participate in, under their parents' strict rules. A society they really knew nothing about. He now will go on to tell how his 13-year-old sister was the first one to get stabbed. This is the girl the police first found when entering the home.
13.
Okay.
She came in to tell us their mom went to get the kitchen done before we went to bed and put the cats up. And basically, we did what we planned. I got to my desk, and I had to look at something to just get to roll up. We went up behind her, grabbed her, and slid with you.
Really? What did he use?
His large red knife.
Okay, a large red knife.
Yeah, it's like mine.
How big is it?
It's like mine, like red. It's about
Oh, I see.
that big. And then she fell to the ground screaming. Mom and Dad, Mom came in first, and then she was
Is your room upstairs or side? I don't know. I haven't been to your house, so I don't know.
Her room is downstairs. It's towards the back of the house.
And so she fell down and started screaming.
Yeah, whatever. Kept stabbing her. I kind of freaked out because,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't planning on this.
Were you saying anything, or,
I just stood there.
Okay.
And then Mom came in, yelling, called the police. And then he went over and stabbed her.
Then he stabbed her?
Yeah, he probably stabbing her, pushed her, floated down the hallway, and got up and ran.
Okay.
She ran out the door.
So she sat down at your desk, and he slit her throat, you said?
Well, she was standing at my desk and
I
came up
see.
behind and slit her throat, and then she fell down screaming.
And then he stabbed her some more? When he was stabbing her some more, where was he stabbing her?
Her neck.
Oh, her neck.
Her neck and her stomach.
Stomach, okay.
And then my mom came in, and she started yelling, called the police, get Dad. And then he came over and started attacking her. He actually got up and ran out the front door.
Wow.
And once Mom was on the ground, he got up and started chasing after her.
And what were you doing? Did you come out in the hallway?
No, I was just standing in my room, kind of process. I don't know what I was doing.
So he stabbed your mom with the same knife?
Yep, same knife.
And where did he stab her?
I think in the neck too.
Okay.
And no, actually, he stabbed her in the neck, pushed her into the kitchen, and then together. So like with her, she started screaming, ran into the family. At the same time, he realized had left the house.
Okay.
I went over and disabled the alarm.
Okay.
That's what I did. And then
where's the pad for your alarm?
It's not the front door.
It's what?
It's now the front door.
Near the front door?
Yeah, and so I went over and disabled the alarm server, and,
But has she already gone outside?
She went outside and Robert went after her.
So where did she...
She was laying in the driveway, and he took her back, the bench, if you have heard, and started choking her.
On the bench out front?
Yeah, it was like a little bench, and he threw the bench on her and went back inside to go after the little kids.
Did he bring her in, or did she stay out there?
She stayed out there until he asked me to get her in. I ran out. I had to go her inside. That's why she's in the NCUA. I had to go her inside.
You brought her back in.
Yeah,
Was she still alive?
Yeah, she was still screaming. And then that's about the time Dad came down.
Okay.
Because his bedroom's upstairs. And he went back in the police area where Robert was. The police area, that's what they call it, a room. And they started attacking Dad. They got a little bit of a fight. But then eventually Robert got him down, and I think he killed him.
Did he cut his throat too? Where did that happen?
In our room.
In your room?
Yeah.
And where were you?
I was standing in the hallway.
Okay. So did you see him cut your dad's throat? Yeah. Did he stab him other places too?
I don't know. I think he just went for the throat. And
where was she? Was in the entryway?
Yeah, she was. I think she was in the entryway at that time. And then he went in, and Daniel was in his room, which is down the hall. And I was like, "Let me."
How old's Daniel?
I think he's 12.
Okay.
And I was like, "Let me in," and he let me in. He was sitting on the phone with the police. I grabbed the phone, which is my phone. I got my phone. And then I ran into the kitchen and I smashed the underground. So,
which was your phone?
Yeah, it was my phone.
Now you don't have a cell phone anymore.
No, I don't. And then I went back down, and and Daniel and Christopher locked himself in the bathroom. Daniel locked himself in Dad's office.
Okay.
And then I finally got both of them to open the door, because they thought I wanted in there.
But they were in different rooms?
Yeah, they're right next to each other. Right?
Oh, I see.
And then Robert went in and stabbed him, and they went in and stabbed Christopher. That's when I stabbed Christopher.
So when he stabbed Daniel, where did he stab Daniel?
I think he shanked him in the neck, and then Daniel ran off, and so I went in. and started attacking Christopher.
So Daniel got stabbed in the neck and he ran off?
Yeah.
Where did you run to?
He ran into the family room about Mom. Mom ended up, she was laying on the ground yelling, call 911.
Okay. And he stopped in there?
Yeah, he collapsed in there, and then Robert came in and started stabbing him in the chest.
Oh, I see. And then who's the youngest, the 4-year-old?
The 4-year-old, I don't know what happened with her. I hope she's alive.
I'm sorry, maybe I messed up. The one that you stabbed, who was that?
Christopher.
Christopher, that's what I'm trying to say.
He's 8-year-old, I think.
He's 8.
10.
And he was in the bathroom.
Yep.
So Daniel had got stabbed in the neck, ran out to where your mom was.
Yeah.
Robert followed him, stabbed him some more.
Yeah, after he stabs Christopher in the bathroom.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then basically after that, everyone was pretty much dead. We forgot about all.
Who was dead?
Everyone, I think.
Okay.
Looked like they were dead, except for she was lying in the TV screaming. Then there was a knock at the door.
Okay.
Someone knocked at the door. I think that might have been the neighbor because the police wouldn't have been there yet. And then they just kept knocking on the door. So we turned around. I grabbed on, put my soft vest and heavy vest on. I was carrying the plates. I put my helmet on. And then we went up the back door of Dad's office, climbed over the fence, went down into the park, and started cutting through the woods.
Okay.
We both collapsed. Like we saw us, we were just sitting there. And they found us.
That's how you got kind of dirty and stuff, dirt on you. So you guys collapsed. Were you just kind of hiding out?
Yeah, we were just laying in a little ditch thing in the woods. And then we saw the light and we lay down and the dog came over.
Did you hear the dog coming?
Mm-hmm. I heard him coming. I saw him coming and then they started yelling and put your hands up.
Mm-hmm.
And I stepped on my head and handcuffed me.
Okay.
Unlike Michael, Robert was super excited when the police interrogated him. I mean, he had been waiting for this his entire life, to have the attention of others, attention he probably never received, and people just begging to talk to him. But Robert's interrogation has been permanently sealed, due to him taking a plea deal. Their plan was to quietly slit the throats of each family member while they slept. They would then clean up the scene, dismember the bodies, and store them in the attic until the next day. Then they would leave for their rampage, where they would post pictures of their family's bodies and put them on social media. But in reality, things did not go as easily as they thought. First, their 13-year-old sister came into their room to tell them to turn off a light. So they slit her throat. But she didn't die right away. She started screaming as Robert stabbed her. Her screams woke up the rest of the house. Both of them stabbed their mother when she came to their doorway. But she got away and ran outside. Michael proceeded to chase her, drag her back into the house, and stabbed her to death. Robert then waited for their father in his room, stabbed him, and slit his throat. Then the two went looking for their younger siblings. Another brother they stabbed in the back multiple times. That is when he called 911. The youngest brother and sister were hiding in the bathroom. Michael knocked on the door and pretended to ask for help by stating Robert was attacking him. When they opened the door, Robert and Michael ambushed them and stabbed them to death. They killed 5 in total, all with a blade. Their mother and father were stabbed the most, 50 times each. That week, the neighborhood mourned such a tragic loss in their community. The most violent crime in Broken Arrow's history. The neighborhood released balloons for the 5 slain victims of the Bever family. Their once silent house was now a place for gathering.
It doesn't just touch a family and the first responders, it touches everyone that reads about it, you know? And you'd have to be not human not to care.
A butterfly, apples on the leaves, and then the person that died.
What do you hope for the family?
That they'll be okay. It was a devilish attack.
Watch over us and care for us individually and collectively.
We just felt like we had to do something. Our hearts were broken because, you know, no one had stepped up.
If something happened to that, like this, to my family, I would like people to step up and help and show their support.
Rest in peace, Bever.
Can't do much, but we can show that we care.
3, 2, 1. Then we'll see them up in heaven.
But there was still so many questions to be answered amongst the community.
At night, all you hear is crickets and frogs, and it's peaceful, and we come out and talk to our neighbors.
Leslie Junker says the only people that were unlike everyone else here lived at the house where police are now investigating a murder.
It's just shocking and frightening.
She says she only saw the parents, identified by police as April and David Bever, a handful of times. Junker says she and her neighbors often worried about the well-being of the couple's 7 children.
Anytime that I would take my kids to the park, my kids would run up to their fence and try to talk to them, and the kids would just turn around and even run from my kids and run back in the house.
It's alarming and upsetting and disheartening. It's hard to just even imagine why someone would do something like that to a stranger, much less your family.
The brothers were both charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. At first, they both pled not guilty. Robert, however, eventually took a plea deal and pled guilty to all counts and was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The prosecutor gave him this deal to spare his surviving sister from having to testify, or else I can almost guarantee he would face death. Michael, on the other hand, insisted on pleading not guilty. He was, however, tried as an adult because of Oklahoma law, which states defendants aged 15 to 17 who are charged with first-degree murder must be prosecuted as adults. Michael's trial took place August 9th, 2018.
Scott and Lisa, 14 days of emotional testimonies. The jury of 11 women and 3 men came back last night around 10:30 after deliberating for more than 5 hours, finding Michael Bever guilty on all charges, the 19-year-old collapsing after hearing the verdict. Defense attorney Corbin Brewster stressed the isolation and mental illness the 19-year-old suffers from, but the district attorney argued Michael had many chances to do the right thing, and he says Michael deserves life without parole.
They plunged a knife into their sister's neck. They then went and attacked their mom, gave her 40-some-odd wounds to her body. They then hunted down their dad and stabbed him in a bedroom. And then they had the audacity to go and knock on a door to try and lure out those children so they can stab them so that they can go on some kind of cross-country crime spree. I want to know, when do you want them out, right? When do you want them as your next-door neighbor? There were 7 people impacted by he and his brother's actions. I'm sorry, I-am-sorry. He couldn't articulate to his very family.
You saw him shaking. I think it was an expression of remorse, even though you didn't hear the word sorry. He got up there and in his way expressed his remorse.
At Michael's trial, Robert cracked a smile and laughed about how he took interest in the killing. Michael was convicted on all counts and sentenced to 5 life sentences plus 28 years for the assault on his surviving sister. He was, however, given the possibility of parole because of his status as a minor. The earliest he would be eligible for parole would be in 2054, when he is 54 years old. The Bever home sat vacant for years. Nobody wanted to move into it because of the painful memories. Years later, the house burnt down, so the community put all their money together and purchased the land, and they built a park. The park is there in memory of the Bever family.
I heard that you finally found your demons buried deep inside your mind. Nothing you could hide now once you've seen them. What else could you hope to find in your mind?
The 2 surviving sisters were adopted by the same family and are doing well. However, they are afraid of Michael ever being released from prison, even if it is in 2054. The road to justice is never easy. It is long and grueling, repetitive and drawn out. It doesn't care about your emotions or suffering. But in the end, you can finally begin to heal.
To get you on your feet, and all that I see is a lame temptation stapled on the road to greed. I heard that you finally sold your heroes, abandoned all your childhood dreams. Innocence ago, you said you'd never change the way you spend your days. But there are ways, and all you need is the one sensation to get you on your feet. And all that I see is a lame temptation stapled on the road to greed.
This podcast was made with love in the memory of the Bever family.
Closer to you, I wanna get closer to you.